Sup, motherfuckers? It's time to review week 1 of the 2021 NFL season. God, my nipples are hard. Dallas versus Tampa Bay. What better way to kick off the 2021 season than by pitting the most overrated team in sports against the most overrated player in sports history? Overall, this was a pretty entertaining game that went down to the wire. Rest in peace, Michael K. Williams. Tom Brady threw for 379 yards and 4 touchdowns with a few interceptions that weren't really his fault, but guess what? I don't care! This cocksucker has gotten away with so many dropped interceptions in big moments over the years, he deserves to throw 50 interceptions this year. Tampa was sloppy all game with drops and fumbles, but Dallas failed to take full advantage of them. Shocker. Dallas left 4 points on the board with a missed extra point and a 31-yard field goal. Dak Prescott was pretty impressive despite the fact that he now has the arm strength of 2015 Peyton Manning. He led a clutch go-ahead drive to take a 1-point lead with 1:24 left, but he left too much time for Brady to lead a bullshit game-winning drive full of tiny little checkdowns and a blatant offensive pass interference penalty on Chris Godwin that wasn't called. Brady willed his kicker to make a 36-yard field goal with 2 seconds left to win the game 31-29. Pittsburgh versus Buffalo. Ben Roethlisberger playing on the road against O.J. Simpson's old team. Let me tell you folks, those were two gentlemen who know how to respect women. This game was a white supremacist dream. A low-scoring affair between two tall white quarterbacks. Excuse me. I need to take another moment to myself to appreciate Big Ben's women-respecting ability. The big story was how the Steelers' defense made Josh Allen look like the Josh Allen we saw his first 2 seasons instead of the MVP candidate we saw last year. Perhaps Allen is intimidated by future Hall of Fame quarterback Mitch Trubisky being his backup? TJ Watt, the type of guy you want fucking your daughter, picked up right where he left off from last year. Highly touted rookie running back Najee Harris didn't do much, and the big takeaways from this game are that Pittsburgh will once again be a boring-ass team, and the Bills should still be fine. Philadelphia versus Atlanta. Oh fuck yes, baby. That's the good shit right there. Fly, Eagles, fly, bitch. First ballot Hall of Fame quarterback Jalen Hurts dropped his nuts all over the state of Georgia to the tune of 3 touchdowns and a 126.4 passer rating. Devonta Smith is going to be the next Marvin Harrison, hopefully just on the field. The Eagles defense makes the 1985 Bears look like a bunch of pussies. That's right, our new head coach Nick Sirianni is the guy your wife secretly fantasizes about when you're not around. Falcons fans are in for another long year that involves lots of yards, mediocre red zone play, and a terrible defense, which were all on full display in this shit show performance. This wasn't even really competitive after Philly went up 15-6 at halftime on a beautiful Hurts touchdown pass to Dallas Goedert. Just give us the fucking Lombardi right now and save the rest of the players a bunch of CTE. The Chargers versus Washington. Justin Herbert's stats won't show it thanks to his receivers dropping a bunch of his passes, but he bitch-slapped an elite Washington defense with his massive cock. Down 16-13 entering the fourth, Herbert fired a sexy back shoulder laser to Mike Williams to take a 2016 lead after Washington running back Antonio Gibson fumbled the ball inside the 4-yard line after Herbert threw a bad interception. His only real bad throw of the day. Ever notice how there's always a receiver named Mike Williams in the NFL at all times? Pretty weird. Anyway, Ryan Fitzpatrick got a boo-boo on his hip and is going to miss extended time, but don't worry, he will be back because he is unkillable. Taylor Heineke, or whoever the fuck you say his name, once again played pretty well in relief, but it wasn't enough. Also, I would be remiss if I didn't point out how literal sewage was spewing all over fans in the stands due to a leaky pipe. What a terrible organization Washington is. Arizona versus Tennessee. The biggest takeaway from this 38-13 Cardinals win was that Tennessee's defense is still softer than a roasted marshmallow. The big surprise was that Tennessee's offense struggled as much as they did. Ryan Tannehill was sacked 6 times and lost 2 fumbles. Derrick Henry did next to nothing all day, and marijuana dealer Julio Jones only had 29 yards receiving in his debut. The real story was Kyler Murray, who looks adorable when he runs around with his tiny little legs moving 100 miles an hour before firing a rocket downfield for a touchdown, which he did in this game to the tune of 4 passing touchdowns and another rushing touchdown. Chandler Jones, who is quietly on track to the Hall of Fame and appears to have gotten over his bizarre police station incident from 2016, had 5 sacks. King versus Jacksonville. This game should have been called the Pure Shit Bowl, as both of these teams will finish near the bottom of the league. However, somebody had to win, and Houston was bestowed that honor in a 37-21 win. His replacement, Tyrod Taylor, ended up having one of the best games of his career, although again, it came against the NFL equivalent of a bunch of Make-A-Wish kids. Props to Houston's medical staff for not almost killing Tyrod like LA's did last year. Baby steps, I suppose. Highly touted first overall pick Trevor Lawrence's NFL debut was shaky as he threw 3 interceptions, but he had some nice throws mixed in, especially his first 2 touchdown passes. Look, the Jaguars suck, Urban Meyer is already on the verge of quitting, and Lawrence is going to have to force a bunch of shit all year to try and keep the team in games. If you're a Jacksonville fan, which, I mean, how does one even become a Jacksonville fan anyway? Seriously. Just pray Meyer ends up being a one-and-done guy so Lawrence's rookie contract years aren't completely wasted. San Francisco versus Detroit. That goddamn handsome bastard Jimmy Garoppolo. My wife saw him on the TV yesterday and immediately squirted all over the couch, and now it smells like fish. I'm vomiting uncontrollably. Anyway, Jimmy G did what he's done when healthy, put up nice stats and lead San Francisco to a win. This looked like a complete blowout with San Fran taking a 41-17 lead with 10 minutes left before Detroit went on a wild comeback attempt that saw them put up 16 straight points and get the ball back down 8 after a San Fran fumble with a minute left. New Detroit quarterback Jared Goff drove them inside the 49ers 25 before turning the ball over on downs to end the game. Ironically enough, what appeared to be a meaningless pick 6 by San Fran in the first half ended up possibly winning them the game, as without it, Detroit would have potentially kicked a game-winning field goal on that previously mentioned drive instead of needing 8 points. On a sad note, Jason Verrett once again suffered a season-ending injury after just 1 game. He is officially this generation's Bob Sanders, a Hall of Fame talent whose body failed him. Very sad. Kyle Shanahan continues to treat Jimmy G like a hoe, pulling him out for rookie Trey Lance mid-drive, even though without Jimmy G, he has just a 7-27 career record. Seattle versus Indianapolis. It's pretty simple. When good Russell Wilson shows up, your team is fucked. And unfortunately for the Colts yesterday, good Russell Wilson showed up. He had almost as many touchdown passes as incompletions. We've seen this story before where Wilson comes out of the season on fire for the first few weeks and looks like a lock to win MVP before falling off. But one of these times, he has to put it all together for a full season, right? His deep ball is still as sexy as ever, but we have to wait and see if he can sustain it. As for Indianapolis, Carson Wentz's much anticipated debut is mostly just meh, although he did get off to a pretty nice start in the first half before slowing down. Wentz lost a fumble and took 3 sacks, but this is just who he is at this point. I guess a positive sign, no offense to Magic Johnson, is that he looked somewhat better than he did last year in Philly, which isn't really saying much. Cincinnati versus Minnesota. Well, wouldn't you fucking know it, Kirk Cousins put up a nice stat line in a loss. I'm fucking stunned, I tell you. There wasn't a point scored over the first 23 minutes until Kirk found gritty, hard-working wide receiver Adam Thielen for a touchdown. Cincinnati responded with 2 touchdown passes from Joe Burrow over the next 6 minutes, including a beautiful 50-yarder to highly criticized rookie Jamar Chase, since he took a 21-7 lead at one point before Kirk led Minnesota back to tie the game at 24 as time expired in regulation. For the record, the person who decided to shorten overtime to 10 minutes needs to be arrested, and the person who decided that ties are still okay in the 2021 NFL season needs to be put on death row. Thankfully, Cincinnati kicked a game-winning field goal as time expired in overtime to win by 3. Minnesota had 2 drives in overtime with a chance to win, but didn't do anything. Although, to be fair to Kirk, Dalvin Cook fumbled inside Cincy's 40 while driving for the game-winning score. Joe Burrow looked pretty good, although he still took too many sacks. New York Jets versus Carolina. I don't know if there are any real takeaways from this game. Both these teams will almost certainly finish last in their divisions. However, this was a somewhat entertaining game in a bad way. Zach Wilson was just as shitty as many expected for almost 3 quarters before suddenly looking competent in the last 16 or so minutes, throwing 2 impressive touchdowns. It also wouldn't be the Jets unless they suffered a setback on a play that's supposed to be great, as star left tackle Mekhi Becton went down with a dislocated kneecap on Wilson's first career touchdown pass. Sam Darnold got his revenge on the Jets, which is kind of like bragging about beating up a handicapped kid, but still, baby steps, I suppose. Darnold had a very good second quarter and ended up with nice stats, but the maddening plays that have plagued his career popped up again, including a brutal fumble and some missed throws in the end zone. In the end, a 19-14 Panthers win sounds about right. Denver versus the New York Giants. Talk about a complete and total team failure by the New Jersey Giants. There is absolutely no positives to take away from this game if you're a Giants fan. The coaching, led by sadist Joe Judge and clapper Jason Garrett, is atrocious. Daniel Jones continues to suck hard, Saquon Barkley is irrelevant even if he's healthy and good, and the defense, which is supposed to be the one saving grace of this team, made Teddy Bridgewater into prime Joe Montana and Melvin Gordon into prime LaDainian Tomlinson. Don't get too excited though, Denver fans. Your team still sucks. You just got to play an even worse team and your division is still loaded at quarterback. Enjoy versus New England. This battle of Alabama quarterbacks turned out to be pretty entertaining. Tua turned the ball over, gave Miami an early 7-0 lead on a great opening drive. New England responded with 10 straight points thanks to drunk driver Mac Jones leading the charge. Miami took a 17-13 lead into the fourth quarter when things got really wild. wild. Jones led New England inside the Miami 15, but he threw a shitty pass that was dropped on third down, so New England had to settle for a questionable field goal to make it 17-16. On the next Miami drive, Tua threw a brutal interception on third down that set New England up in midfield. Jones calmly led New England to Miami's 11-yard line when running back Damian Harris fumbled the ball away with 3:31 left. Miami then ran out the rest of the clock. What looked like a sure New England win ended in heartbreak. Fittingly enough, in just one career start, Mac Jones has already seen a teammate fumble away the ball down by 1 to 3 points in the fourth quarter as many times as Tom Brady has in 345 starts. It looks like Jones needs to learn how to deflate his football so his teammates don't fumble. New Orleans versus Green Bay. Well, what do we have here? It's just Aaron Rodgers versus Jameis Winston. It's pretty obvious the Packers are going to win this game. Oh my God! This is one of the biggest surprises in recent memory. The Packers were completely outclassed on both sides of the ball from the very beginning. Turns out Green Bay hiring the defensive coordinator of the 2008 Lions that went 0-16 and had the worst defense in the league for back-to-back years was a bad idea. Jameis Winston threw 5 touchdowns. The surprise of the day was Aaron Rodgers completely regressing back into the bullshit hero ball mode that plagued him from 2017 to 2019. Missing reads underneath and just looking completely disinterested. As a longtime Rodgers supporter, I feel betrayed. Either act like you give a fuck or retire and go host Jeopardy and fucking smoke weed with Miles Teller. Kansas City versus Cleveland. The Cleveland Browns completely dominated this game for 3 quarters. They took a 9-point lead with 10:24 left after heroic woman respecter Kareem Hunt scored on a touchdown run. Baker Mayfield was very good until the final drive. The run game was good. The defense got a respectable amount of pressure, but the Chiefs have the ultimate trump card in Patrick Mahomes. After falling behind by 9 points in the fourth quarter, Kansas City scored on a ridiculous 75-yard touchdown pass by Mahomes to Tyreek Hill. Between Hill and Hunt, there was so much woman respecting in the stadium. Wow. Anyway, Cleveland then botched a punt and gave Mahomes a 15-yard drive, which he took advantage of to give KC a 33-29 lead. KC's defense stepped up to bleed out the rest of the clock to hang on to win. Mahomes did get lucky with Cleveland's punter botching the snap, but we all know deep down Kansas City probably comes back to win anyway. Mahomes, behind an even somewhat competent offensive line, is the best quarterback of all time. I don't care what anybody else says. If only Baker Mayfield had sent his defensive teammates an inspirational text message the night before the game to inspire them to hold Mahomes to 9 points like Brady did. Such a shame. The LA Rams versus Chicago Bears. I feel for Bears fans, not really. Your incompetent head coach is basically edging you by occasionally putting your highly touted first-round quarterback into the game before yanking him for a career journeyman who happens to be a ginger. But Chicago's offense stinking is not surprising in the slightest. Matt Nagy is in year 4 and his play calling is still just as random as it was in year 1. It reminds me of the joke South Park made about how Family Guy uses manatees picking random balls with words on them to generate flashback sequences that make no sense. Stat Padford had the best statistical game of his career in his LA Rams debut, but him performing well against bad teams is not new. The real first test for him and the LA Rams will come against Tampa in a few weeks. As a side note, Sean McVay's fiance is a very, very respectable woman. Baltimore versus Las Vegas. What was a pretty mundane game for 3 quarters ended up being an early game of the year candidate. The Ravens took a 17-10 lead into the fourth quarter before shit got wilder than my divorce hearings. The 2 teams traded touchdowns back and forth to make it 24-all with 4 minutes left, but Lamar Jackson then led a drive that ended with a go-ahead 47-yard Justin Tucker field goal to make it 27-24 Baltimore with 37 seconds left. Derek Carr then applied some more eyeliner, seriously, have you seen his eyes, and fired a few beautiful piss missiles to get Las Vegas into field goal range where their kicker nailed a super clutch 55-yarder to send the game into overtime. In overtime, Vegas got the ball first and Carr drove them to the Baltimore 1-yard line. They false started, then Carr threw a brutal Russell Wilson-esque interception to give the ball back to